Lucas arrived at the sleek, glass-walled building on Fifth Avenue carrying a borrowed laptop, a zip-up hoodie, and the kind of hope only immigrants truly understand. He was 23, newly graduated from a university in São Paulo, and armed with an opt visa that gave him exactly 1 year to prove he belonged in America. 1 year to find sponsorship. 1 year to go from outsider to indispensable. The company was called Solvista, a San Diego-based tech startup that built real-time analytics platforms for renewable energy grids. Their mission statement read like something pulled from a TED Talk: empower, sustain, evolve. Their open concept office glowed with ambition, plants hanging from reclaimed wood beams, espresso machines humming in the background, and meditation pods no one actually used. Lucas was hired as an unpaid IT intern, but the CTO had hinted that if he performed well, he could be brought on full-time. The HR representative mentioned potential sponsorship, if we have budget. It wasn't a promise, but Lucas didn't need promises. He needed a chance. By week 3, Lucas had become the guy people came to when their Zoom froze or their password expired. He smiled easily, worked late without complaint, and never mentioned that he was skipping meals to cover rent. He didn't wear ambition on his sleeve, but it pulsed in every quiet nod and every "I can fix that." It was on a rainy Wednesday, San Diego's rare melancholy kind of day, that everything shifted. A system-wide authentication bug locked out several key accounts. Lucas was called in to troubleshoot. He traced the error back to a misconfigured user permission folder connected to the executive admin's Google Workspace. One folder was unlabeled. He clicked it. Inside were several cached thumbnails. At first, it looked like corporate headshots, until he enlarged one. It was a photo of Veronica Reid. She was reclining on a white sofa in what appeared to be a penthouse living room, wearing nothing but a silk robe. Her hand rested on the bare chest of a man whose face was turned away, but whose body language made the dynamic clear, intimate, familiar. Not her husband. Lucas's heart kicked against his ribs. He didn't mean to see it. He shouldn't have seen it. He backed out of the folder, wiped the trace from the log file, and tried to steady his breath. But it was too late. An hour later, his Slack pinged. A message from an unknown username, reid. Rooftop, 6:30 p.m. Come alone. He hesitated, wondered if it was a prank. But when he arrived on the rooftop deck, reserved for board meetings and high-level investor cocktails, she was already there. Veronica Reid. She stood by the edge, one hand wrapped around a stemless glass of wine, her coat loose over her shoulders like it had been draped, not worn. Her beauty was cold, sculpted, refined, the kind that didn't seek attention because it had never been without it. "You're punctual," she said, not turning. Lucas swallowed. "You messaged me." She finally faced him. Her eyes were gray, not soft gray, storm cloud gray. "You saw something you weren't supposed to." "I didn't mean to." "I know." She took a sip. "But now you've seen it." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. There was no script for this. No protocol. Veronica stepped closer. "Do you know who that man was?" Lucas shook his head. She smiled, tight and mirthless. "Neither does my husband." He blinked. "Relax," she added. "I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to assess you." "Assess?" She gestured to a second glass on the ledge. "Have a drink, Lucas. You've earned it." He didn't move. "I Googled you," she continued. "Top of your class. Migrated here on an opt visa. No family here. No safety net. You need sponsorship, don't you?" He flinched. "How do you know?" "I know everything about people I may need to use." The words landed like ice water. "I'm not trying to insult you," she added. "On the contrary, I admire resourcefulness, loyalty, discretion." He felt himself drift, despite every instinct warning him to leave. There was something magnetic about her, like standing too close to a bonfire. "It warms you before it burns. I won't ask what you plan to do with what you saw," she said. "I already know the answer. Nothing. Because you're smart. You want to stay in this country. And I can help with that." Lucas's voice cracked. "What are you offering?" Her smile was velvet over steel. Mutual benefit, a quiet understanding. You get a career, a visa, maybe even your own team someday. In return, you keep what you saw between us. And you make yourself available. He stared at her. Available? She didn't answer, just raised the wineglass to her lips. The wind picked up. The city buzzed below like nothing had changed. But Lucas knew something had. In him, around him. He nodded slowly. Veronica stepped past him, her perfume brushing his senses like a seal. As she reached the door, she paused. You're too quiet, Lucas. That's why I chose you. You don't ask questions. He stood alone as the sun dipped behind the buildings. His hands trembling, his mind spiraling. He wasn't sure what had just happened. But he was sure of one thing. I thought I was just fixing servers, not bargaining with secrets. The first message came at 10:38 p.m. on a Sunday night. How's the cloud migration going? V. Lucas sat up in bed, blinking at the screen. The question was technical, work-related, but the hour wasn't. He waited a minute before replying. On schedule. The S3 buckets are sinking fine. Should be done by morning. Her reply came faster than he expected. Good boy. No emoji, just those two words. Casual. Or maybe not. By the following week, her texts grew more frequent. Some still about work. Most weren't. Ever miss home? Who's waiting for you back in Brazil? You don't seem like someone who's ever truly belonged anywhere. That's not an insult. That's power. I like your silences. They speak more than most people's noise. Lucas never knew how to answer. So he often didn't. But the messages kept coming anyway. Like waves reshaping a shoreline. The conference was held in a glass high-rise overlooking the San Diego Marina. It was the kind of event where everyone wore smartwatches. And the champagne tasted like technology. Lucas was only there to manage AV setups and troubleshoot any on-site glitches. That was the plan, until Amber, the CEO, rushed up to him near the end of the night. Our driver's caught in traffic. Veronica needs to get back to the Carlton. Can you take her? Just for tonight? Lucas hesitated. Of course. When he approached Veronica, she was already waiting in the lobby. Her heels were off. She held them like weapons in one hand and a shawl in the other. Uber Lucas, my savior, she smiled, slipping into the passenger seat of the company Tesla. The drive was quiet at first. She stared out the window, humming a tune he didn't recognize. Ever wonder what would have happened if you never opened that folder? She asked suddenly. Lucas kept his eyes on the road. I try not to. She turned to him. Liar. When they arrived, she invited him up, said it was only for a minute, said she had a bottle of something expensive and half-finished. Lucas hesitated in the doorway. The room was tastefully cold, white orchids, muted lighting, a skyline that looked too perfect to be real. She poured 2 glasses. No ice. You're stiff, she said. I should go. She walked over, placed a glass in his hand, and said nothing. Then, as he reached for the keys in his pocket, she touched his wrist. You don't know what you look like, do you? She asked. He blinked. What? So real, so unpolished. It's disarming. He didn't answer. She took a sip. I could help you stay. You know, not in this room, in this country. Lucas looked at her, at the curve of her shoulder, the line of her collarbone, the glass reflecting city lights in her fingers. He wanted to say no. He wanted to say something righteous, or cautious, or at least professional, but he said nothing, and she kissed him, not quickly, not possessively, slowly, like she was daring him to stop her. He didn't. There were no words after that. No promises, no explanations, only the quiet unraveling of fabric, the rustle of breath against breath, the space between them collapsing like a soft implosion. Lucas didn't remember falling asleep, but he remembered waking up. The room was dim, a sliver of light peeked through the blackout curtains. Veronica was gone. On the nightstand sat a plain white envelope. Inside, 2 crisp $100 bills. No note, no name, just the money. He stared at it for a long time, then left it untouched. Back at his apartment, Lucas took a scalding shower. scrubbed at skin that still felt too much like hers. He told himself it was a mistake. One time, something to forget. But the next day, she texted him again. Next Friday, room 1803, don't be late. No greeting, no context, as if they had a contract. And maybe they did. Lucas deleted the message, then undeleted it, then stared at it for 10 full minutes. He didn't respond, but he showed up anyway. He told himself he wasn't being used. He told himself it was a choice. He told himself he still had control. But every night, when he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the same thought echoed like a heartbeat beneath the noise. Was this survival, or surrender? He didn't know. He only knew he couldn't stop. And maybe, just maybe, that was what she wanted all along. The Airbnb was always booked under the name Elena Carter. Same place, same room, once a week, every Friday after sunset. It was a loft tucked away in the hills above Mission Valley, far enough from downtown to avoid curiosity, but close enough to feel like a secret never too far from being found. The walls were concrete, the furniture all velvet and glass, and the sheets smelled faintly of lavender and wine. Lucas stopped asking questions. He simply showed up. The first few times, she greeted him with a glass of whatever red was trending in the Napa circuit. Then she stopped pretending it was casual. No wine, no talk, just skin. Some nights she said nothing at all, just looked at him like he was a possession to be used. Then folded away, and yet he kept coming back, driven by something he no longer mistook for attraction. It was gravity, or maybe inertia. The email came on a rainy Tuesday. Subject: Offer of employment, Solvista Technologies. Lucas stared at the screen. Full-time IT analyst, competitive salary, relocation package, visa sponsorship. He blinked twice. In the signature line, CC, Veronica Reid. He should have felt joy, relief, a sense of achievement, but the elation that rose was muted by a deeper sound, doubt. That night, she didn't mention it. She acted as if the email didn't exist, as if she hadn't moved the levers behind closed doors to make it happen. But as Lucas got dressed, she said, almost lazily, "You see, loyalty pays." She began texting him every morning. Before breakfast, before work, sometimes before dawn. Morning, Lucas, did you dream of me? Why didn't you reply faster? Didn't like your tone yesterday. Delete that photo with Amanda. You don't need old ties. Lucas froze at the last one. Amanda, his ex, still in Brazil. They barely spoke. How do you even know about that? He texted back. No reply, only a voice memo 30 minutes later, her breathing first. Then softly, "Because you belong to me now." He didn't reply. She didn't need him to. 2 weeks later, he skipped a Friday, told her he had a server migration that ran long. A lie. He spent the evening alone in a 24-hour diner staring at his reflection in the silver napkin holder. She didn't confront him. She sent him a package. Inside, a burner phone and a note. "For your eyes only. From now on, this is how we talk." He thought about ignoring it. He thought about quitting, until his own work visa application status online changed from "processing" to "approved." Veronica never said the words. She didn't need to. The message was clear. Everything you have now is because I allow it. Lucas stopped calling his mother. Not because he didn't miss her, but because every time he did, Veronica texted something chillingly well-timed, "Miss your mama today," or "Careful who you share your blessings with." He blocked Amanda completely, removed her photos, wiped his WhatsApp clean. Each concession came with its own quiet shame, but also a strange calm, like following orders in a prison too nice to escape. Then came the night he didn't mean to hear it. Veronica had gone into the bathroom of the Airbnb loft to take a call. Lucas was half asleep, shirtless, sprawled on the linen duvet. He heard her voice, distant but firm. "No, I don't care what she posts. I told you, let her play house for a few months. I'll drag the prenup out. Let the press cool down first." A pause. Laughter. "No, darling, he has no idea. He thinks I'm the one who was abandoned." Another pause. Yes, Brazilian, pretty, smart, quiet, just the kind of distraction you'd appreciate if you were me. Lucas sat up slowly. Veronica returned 5 minutes later. Her face unreadable. He didn't mention it. He didn't need to. But that night, as they lay in silence, Lucas didn't sleep. For the first time, he saw the pattern, how he was chosen. Tailored again, not loved, not even desired, just placed. She wasn't escaping a cruel husband. She was waging a war. And he was a pawn that fit the script. The next morning, as she zipped her dress, she kissed him on the forehead. "Don't fall in love with me," she said softly, "it'll ruin the story." He wanted to ask what story, but he already knew the answer. The one where she wins. And he forgets he was ever real. Lucas sent the email just after midnight. No subject line, just a single sentence. "This needs to stop. I'm resigning by the end of the month." He didn't expect a response. He didn't want one. For the first time in weeks, he breathed without checking his phone. He even slept. But by 10:06 a.m., the message came. From our formal, cold, "Please report to conference room C for a mandatory meeting regarding a personnel matter." The room was already occupied when he arrived. 2 people from Human Resources, 1 internal counsel, 1 woman from Compliance. They didn't offer water. They didn't ask how he was. They asked questions. Measured, documented, clinical. "Have you ever engaged in any inappropriate communication with Veronica Reid? Did you ever attempt to obtain benefits in exchange for silence? Do you understand the definition of coercive manipulation in the context of workplace hierarchy?" Lucas sat frozen, his mouth dry. The final document was on the table by noon. A typed complaint signed by Veronica. Dated that very morning. Allegations, persistent harassment, coercive threats, emotional instability, potential for reputational damage. His fingerprints were on nothing. But her name was everywhere. She said he pursued her. That he became obsessive. That when she denied him further contact, he threatened to release private information. Lucas tried to speak, tried to explain, mentioned the burner phone, the messages. But when he asked to show them, he found the phone bricked, reset, wiped clean. He reached for his Solvista email. Access denied. He pulled out his own phone. 3 unread messages, all from unknown numbers. The first was a warning. Let it go. The second, you were never supposed to be more than temporary. The third, a photo. Grainy, him outside the Airbnb. It was enough. By 3 p.m., he was walked out by security. No goodbyes, no explanations, just silence that hummed too loudly. 3 days later, a blog post surfaced on a tech gossip site known for taking down startups with loose ethics and looser NDAs. Intern attempts to blackmail tech angel investor. The article was unverified, anonymous sources, no names, but the details were sharp. A Brazilian intern, alleged manipulation, leaked screenshots, blurred, a photo of Lucas entering a hotel alone. Comment sections lit up. Another visa scammer. Power-hungry immigrant tries to play the game and loses. She's the victim, always is. Lucas didn't leave his apartment for 2 days. When he did, he saw his face reflected in coffee shop windows and felt it twist in his gut. He packed in silence. 2 bags, 1 flight. Departure, San Diego International. Gate 46A. Destination, Sao Paulo. As the plane lifted above the city, Lucas stared at the skyline, the cranes, the solar roofs, the glowing towers that once made him believe this was where his life would happen. He remembered his first day, his hope, his quiet hunger. He remembered Veronica's hand on his chest. He remembered how she looked at him like a blank canvas, and how he let her paint him with disappearing ink. There were no headlines now, no protests, no second chances, just the cold arithmetic of power. 1 accusation, 1 deleted message, 1 man removed. As the clouds swallowed the last glimpse of California, Lucas closed his eyes, not in peace, but in defeat. He had wanted to belong, but he had never even been real to them. Just a placeholder, a distraction, an erasure waiting to happen. The humidity in São Paulo wrapped around Lucas like a second skin. He rented a small apartment above a closed bookstore. Its shutters rusted from years of rain. The Wi-Fi was spotty. The shower whined when turned on. But it was quiet, and it was far away. He worked freelance now, mostly coding back-end systems for clients he never met. Payments arrived through intermediaries. No names, just wallet IDs. He didn't ask questions. He didn't post online. No social profiles. No LinkedIn. No digital footprints, except the ones he couldn't erase. At night, he kept the curtains drawn. He had developed a habit of checking every email header for tracking pixels. He wiped his phone weekly. He never took video calls unless absolutely necessary. But they still came. Job interviews, rare as they were, always began the same friendly tone, promising project. Then, always, the pause. One interviewer squinted at the screen, tilted his head. "Didn't I see your face before? Somewhere in the States?" Lucas didn't answer. He reached for the mouse and turned off his webcam. The call ended 2 minutes later. He didn't reapply. In the evenings, when the city fell into its usual noise of distant traffic and barking dogs, Lucas sometimes stared at the old phone tucked in his drawer. It was the one she gave him. The burner. He hadn't used it in months. But he hadn't thrown it away either. That night, he turned it on. The screen lit slowly, like a breath held too long. No SIM card, just offline storage. The messages were still there. "You're different. You're mine." He stared at those 2 lines for longer than he should have. Then, with a flick of his thumb, he deleted the thread. It was gone, but nothing really left him. Not the sound of her heels echoing in marble hallways. Not the way she said his name like it was both a promise and a punishment. Not the look in her eyes when she realized he still believed her. He had tried to tell himself it wasn't his fault. That he was young. That he was manipulated. That he just wanted to stay. But some truths don't offer comfort. Only clarity. He hadn't been chosen. He had been convenient. She didn't fall for him. She fell into him, like one might fall into a lie to buy time. To redirect attention. To survive a season. Lucas walked the streets of his old neighborhood like a ghost that didn't want to be remembered. His mother still called. He always picked up, but he no longer shared much. What could he say? That the dream cost more than he had. That sometimes power doesn't destroy you with noise, but with precision, timing, and plausible deniability. That he had no proof. Only memory. One night, he passed a sidewalk cafe where a TV played muted news footage. The camera panned past a charity gala in San Francisco. Veronica stood center frame, smiling, wearing white. Beside her, her husband. Reconciled. The caption read, "Power couple donates $2 million to underserved youth in tech." Lucas didn't stop walking. He never watched the rest. He never needed to. She had won. Again, he returned to his apartment. Shut the door. Sat in the dark. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was verdict. He thought he was playing the game. He didn't know. He was just the silence she needed to protect her image.